Hey everyone, here's just another video on another build that I've been using on my Warlock. So this build is built around stasis and the harmony with weapons as well as stasis, as well as being able to get your abilities extremely fast, kind of like my other video with the Titan. Now with this one I've spec'd into recovery and discipline because we're going to be using our grenades a lot and using the shatter ability from them to wipe out multiple adds. So it's good to have our grenades up quite frequently. Recovery is also really going to be nice here because unlike the Titan build where we're healing all the time, this is about reducing our damage taken by having crystals up almost all the time. And so first let's go ahead and start off with the subclass, of course Shadebinder. I am using Glacial Harvest, so every time I freeze an enemy I'm going to create a shard. And I'm also using Frost Pulse. This way I can get more offense out of my Rift, get those glacial shards right off the bat, and also freeze them. So with that being said, I'm using Whisper of Shards, which increases my resilience. And when we shatter our crystals, we're going to be getting a lot of grenade energy back. And we're going to be making those often, so it kind of, again, chains grenade to grenade to grenade. I'm also using Whisper of Chains, which adds to my recovery, but I'm also taking reduced damage. Now, the damage that's being reduced is 25% from all sources. So again, having those grenades up, not only using them offensively, but we can also use them defensively. So that's why I'm using the Glacial Grenade rather than, for example, Duskfield grenades. Yes, the time says 2 minutes 32 seconds base, but with 100 discipline as well as Whisper of Shards, we're going to be getting them back almost instantaneously. Now, Whisper of Fissures is another one I'm using, is increasing the damage and size of the burst of the stasis when you destroy a stasis crystal or defeat a frozen enemy. And because we're going to be constantly using glacial grenades and constantly freezing enemies, especially Frost Pulse, this is going to be very handy to have. And the hand cannon I'm using has Headstone on it, so this works perfect with Headstone. And lastly, this one is very important, is Whisper of Rending. Kinetic weapons do increase damage to your stasis crystals and frozen targets. Now they've updated this so it also is affected by stasis weapons. So when we come back out here, something like the IS Luna, which I would highly recommend. If you can't get IS Luna, at least try for a Vulpecula with Headstone. So Precision Final Blow spawn a stasis crystal at the victim's location. With that mod that increases the damage, you can one-shot your headstones and they'll blow up. Just one-shot them instead of two-tapping them. Same thing with your grenade. When you throw your grenade out, you can one-tap the grenade wall and it'll blow up each section. And each section that you blow up or each headstone you break gives you a 5% buff to your grenade energy cooldown, and that caps out at 10. So another weapon that I would suggest using is if you were able to get it during the event, which is the Sephir, and this you'd want to have Cold Steel. Now the reason we're having Cold Steel is one thing it doesn't not say is that you can start to slow targets down on light attacks, not just heavy attacks. And if you do 3 light attacks, or a combination of light attacks and heavy attacks, you will actually freeze the target. And because we have the one mod that when we freeze targets, they create a shard, you're going to be making shards off of this sword. Just using the sword by itself will create shards for you. And so with that all being said, let's get into the actual build with the armor. So first I have double sword drop ammo for my swords, because I'm going to be using them like quite often, especially with large enemies, freezing them, creating shards. But I also have elemental armaments. So once I'm getting a well that matches my subclass, it will increase the damage of all those weapons matching my subclass by 25%. And since we're using stasis sword and the stasis hand cannon will get that 25% buff for 10 seconds. For my hands, I have momentum transfer, again, when we're doing damage with the grenades. So when you blow up those ice walls, that's technically damage from your grenades. So it's going to start reducing the cooldown of your melee, which again, we're going to be using your abilities to cycle through, kind of like a chain. And also I have elemental charge, which when I pick up at elemental well, matching my subclass, I'm going to get a charge with light or double charge with light if it does indeed match my subclass. Then on my chest, I have Lucent Blade and Replenishing Guard. I used arc damage resistance to get the secondary effect of Lucent Blade. For my bottoms, I have Enhanced Sword Scavenger, because again, it's all based on swords, but I also have Font of Might. And that's what's going to give me my 25% increase to my stasis weapons. Sorry, I mixed up elemental armaments with that mod. So elemental armaments, when I'm getting a kill matching my subclass, so my Ias Luna or my sword, I have a chance to make a well. And of course the wells will also give me that damage, but also reduce cooldowns of my abilities. Now this is the most important aspect of it, elemental shards. When you have this mod equipped, elemental shards, which I'm going to be getting all the time when I'm freezing enemies, whether it's with my grenade, my melee, or my ability, those shards count as wells. And so now every time I'm picking up a shard, I'm getting that damage buff of 25%. I am getting the elemental charge for my sword to do extra damage. So then I'm going to, with my sword at that time, I'm going to be getting 25% increased damage, as well as the 35% increase to damage from Lucent Blade. And what's interesting about that is if you are going against a boss and you're constantly hitting it, you're going to make a shard, which when you pick it up, you got that 10 seconds of 25% damage. But also when you pick it up, you get Charge with Light time 2, which is another 10 seconds of 35% damage from Lucent Blade. So you can repeatedly keep giving yourself this 60% damage buff constantly, almost endlessly. And so I would definitely suggest having Relentless Strike. If you do have one with Relentless Strike and Cold Steel, it'll work very well together. Now, this build does require you to have 2 stasis weapons. It does make it the best. You don't have to, but you'll have diminishing returns. In the center slot, I would suggest a long range because you have a sword and a hand cannon. You need something to fill that gap, but you can put whatever you want. I normally use the long walk with overflow because it'll give my magazine of 8, and I'm going to constantly be having a full mag when I switch to it because I'm going to be picking up ammo of either special or heavy, and it keeps, refilling it to overfilling the slot. Otherwise, I would suggest something like Borealis or maybe even Ariana's Vow to kind of fill that gap. You can also use Telesto or something like that, but you really want that range for most activities. Alright, so let's go ahead and take a look at this in action. Now here I'm on the moon. Hopefully I can find a good amount of ads. Oh, we're already at the boss. Alright, well then this will work out, I'm sure. Alright, so here comes the boss. So here we can see a lot of ads. So there we got that. Alright, come on, spawn some ads so I can. So we got that. So you can. So we have ×2. There's quite a lot going on my screen, so you can't see all of the. But as you can see, I can one-shot the things. You can get ability energy back. There we go. Alright, let's go find one of the bosses. Ah, perfect. You can see that I'm already still at Charge with Light ×2, which means that I refreshed my ability. Of course, he gets in. Alright, let's see. against him. Let's see that. There we go. Charge with light ×2 because I'm just making crystals off of the freezing of enemies. See, we can one-shot even the big crystals with the IS Luna now. And then I can use just the explosions just to clear ads. Use this as offense. You can see my crystals that I've already spawned. Use that to blow that up. And I'm also using Stag, so when I freeze an enemy with my well, I also get that an extra 25% damage reduction. So I'm technically taking 50% reduction of damage while in my well, surrounded by frozen enemies. And we can see that I'm getting my charged light right back, just slashing away at them, really. And I'm also getting that extra damage from the Glacial Harvest. Shoot those, get that energy back. See that I have improved for 10 seconds. See all those shards. What's nice is you can just hip fire those shards really easy since they're so big. Just get that energy back and also blow them up. Alright, and that'll do it.